All right, boys and girls. So this video is for those of you that were absent either Thursday, September 17th or Friday, September 18th. And watching this video and doing these problems with me will help you catch back up. So we're going to be on page 6. You can see page 6 of the Unit 1 packet. So I would just pause it, get your packet, turn to page 6, and we'll get started. Okay, so today we're going to focus on multiplying decimals by whole numbers. We're going to start with a really quick intro activity up here. It says bamboo is one of the fastest growing plants. It can grow about 4 9/10 feet in height per day. It is a favorite food of panda bears. You can use repeated addition to find the total height a bamboo plant can grow over a number of days. So one way to find how much or how quickly this bamboo grows is to add. So for 3 days, and again, you'd be wanting to write this with me because these are your notes. For 3 days, we'd add 4 9/10 3 times. Okay? And that's going to be the 14 7/10. If we add those three numbers together, we get 14 7/10. Now, for 4 days, that would be adding 4 9/10 4 times. So we're going to add that 4 times. That's going to tell us the height of the bamboo after 4 days. This is also true, by the way. It grows that quickly. It would be 19 6/10. So you can see, like, for 5 days, it's kind of a pain at this point because we're having to write out 5 4 9/10. And you're probably thinking there's got to be an easier way to do this. Well, there is, and I'll show you in a moment. I'm sorry. I wrote the number 5 instead. We're going to put 4 9/10. And when you add those together, you would get 24 5/10. Now, again, there is an easier way to do this. Instead of like adding those decimals over and over again, we can use multiplication. So if we wanted to find the height of the bamboo over 2 days, we do 4 9/10 times 2, and it's going to have the same product, 9 8/10. This one would be 4 9/10 times 3, where you'd get 14 7/10. This one would be 4 9/10 times 4, which is 19 6/10. And this would, of course, be 4 9/10 times 5, which is 24 5/10. So as you can see in this column, it's written much more efficiently, meaning it's shorter. But we're saying the same thing. So when you multiply decimals, especially multiplying decimals by whole numbers, it's kind of the same thing as adding that decimal multiple times. So instead of adding 4 9/10 5 times, we're going to multiply by 5, and we get the same answer. So it says, use the pattern to determine the product of 6 times 4 9/10. So if 24 1/2 is 5 times 4 9/10, if we were going to do 6 times 4 9/10, that would pretty much just be adding another 4 9/10. We could do that, and we'd get 5 plus 9 is 14, 4 plus 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9, 2, and then you drop the decimal. So the answer is 29 4/10. Or, and this is what we're going to do today, you could multiply it. Notice that I'm not lining up the decimals. You only need to line up the decimals with addition and subtraction. 6 times 9 would be 54. Put the 4 down, carry the 5. 6 times 4 is 24. Plus 5 is 29. So you see, you get the same thing. Notice I did not line up the decimal point. I just multiplied as normal, and I would have one decimal place in my answer. So the big question is, how do we know where to put the decimal point when multiplying by decimals? And that's the question we're going to ask today. So we're going to try a few of these, and then I'm going to have you try some on your own. So I'm going to share with you a couple tips, too, when you're multiplying decimals. The first one here we see is 4 times 83 hundredths, which is the same thing as like adding 83 hundredths 4 times. So instead of writing 83 hundredths plus 83 hundredths plus 83 hundredths plus 83 hundredths, we can just multiply by 4. So with an estimate, 4 is 4, and 8300ths is pretty close to 1. So my estimate, I think this answer is going to be around 1. It's probably going to be a little bit less because 8300ths is less than 1. Now here's the tip. When you're multiplying decimals, because the order doesn't matter, like you could do 4 times 8300ths or 8300ths times 4 and get the same answer, I'm going to put the longer number on top. That's just going to help me set up my multiplication and help me get the answer more easily. Since if you put the 4 on top, I'll show you what it looks like. It looks kind of strange because normally we're used to having the longer number on top. I don't like, I don't like the way this looks. So I'm not going to write it that way. I'm going to put the longer number on top. Because in multiplication, if you change the order, the answer will stay the same. All right, so we'll just multiply as normal. Notice we don't have to line them up. This is not addition or subtraction. In multiplication, we do not have to line up the decimal point. 4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 8 is 32. Plus 1 is 33. And 4 times 0 would just be 0. So where would the decimal point go? Well, this number has 2 decimal places. This number has 0 decimal places. So that means my answer is going to have 2 decimal places. All right, so let's check to see if it's a good answer. Yeah, this number is pretty close to 4. Those are pretty close, so it checks out. It's a reasonable answer. All right, let's check the next one. First, we'll estimate. I'm just going to change these numbers to numbers that are easy to work with. 3 I'm going to keep as 3. 14 is pretty close to 15, which is easy to multiply by. Pretty easy. 15 times 2 is 30, so 15 times 3 would be another 15, which would be 45. So I'm thinking my answer is going to be around 45, probably a little bit less. So I'm going to put the longer number on top, 14 and 2/10. I don't have to line up the decimal because this is not addition or subtraction. And I'm going to multiply as normal. 3 times 2 is 6. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4. And we're going to move the decimal point once because there's only one decimal place in these two numbers. There's one decimal place here and none here. So we're going to move it just one time. And notice, these numbers are pretty close. So the estimate and the real answer are close. Those check out. All right. Last one here. The estimate for this one is kind of strange, I guess. It's a little tricky. So I'm going to keep 14. Now, 3500ths is actually closer to 0 than it is to 1. But if I multiply by 0, I'm just going to get 0. So I'm going to actually say that's closer to 1, we'll say. 14 times 1 would be 14. Now, I know the answer is going to be less than 14 because 3500ths is less than 1. I'm thinking it's going to be closer to like 5 or 6. So maybe a better estimate would actually be 14 times a half because that's pretty close to a half. And half of 14 would be 7. So I'm thinking the answer is going to be around 7, probably a little bit less. And again, I'm going to put the longer number on top when I multiply for real. Put the shorter number on the bottom. Now I know my answer is going to have 2 decimal places because this number has 2 decimal places. This has none. So I know it's going to have 2 decimal places. It's going to be the hundredths place. All right, let's multiply. 4 times 5 is 20. Put the 0 down, carry the 2. 4 times 3 is 12, plus 2 is 14. And 4 times 0 is just 0. So you could put a 0 here, but that's not going to do anything. Now, what I like to do, and I've showed you this before, I like to erase the numbers that I carried. And I also like to cross out the number I've already multiplied by. At this point, too, I need to put a placeholder 0 here because that's not a 1, that's a 10. So I need to put a placeholder 0 there to hold the place. Then I multiply as normal. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 0 is 0. You could put a 0 there, but you don't have to. So when I add these up, 0 plus 0 is 0. 4 plus 5 is 9. 1 plus 3 is 4. And then again, I told you before that there are going to be 2 decimal places in this answer. 1, 2, because there's 2 decimal places here. Now, again, this is kind of a tougher estimate because this is closer to 0, but a half times 14 would be 7. And that's pretty, it's not, right next to 7, but it's pretty close. So that seems like a reasonable answer for me. All right, we're going to try a couple more, and then I'm going to have you try some on your own. Okay. At this point, I mean, if you want to try this first one on your own, you can just pause the video and try it, and then keep playing the video and see if you got it. And I'm going to keep going here. So my estimate, again, that's 5. That's pretty close. Well, that's a quarter, really. That's a quarter. So really, my estimate is how much is 5 quarters worth? Because that's like 25 cents, and 5 quarters is worth $1.25. So I'm thinking that that's the answer. So let's see. I'm going to put the longer number on top, multiply by 5. It's always good to practice, especially when we're learning something new or practicing something we haven't seen in a while. And we'll just multiply as normal. Again, we're not lining up the decimal point. 5 times 5 is 25. 5 times 2 is 10, plus 2 is 12. 5 times 0 is 0. We don't really need the 0. Let's just put the 0 just in case, just to see what it looks like. We're going to have 2 decimal places because this first factor is 2 decimal places, so 1, 2. And another way to write that answer would be 1 and 25/100ths, which is what our estimate was, because that's the same thing as saying how much is 5 quarters worth. All right. Again, if you want to try this one on your own, you can pause it and try it and see what you get. My estimate's going to be, that's going to be 8 times, this is close to 5. 4 and 47/100ths is pretty close to 5. It's close to 4 as well. 8 times 5 is 40. So I think my answer is going to be around 40, just a little bit less. I'm going to put the longer number on top. Again, we don't have to line up the decimal points because it's not adding or subtracting. 8 times 7 is 56. 8 times 4 is 32, plus 5 is 37. 8 times 4 is 32 again, plus 3 is 35. And there are going to be 2 decimal places because this number has 2 and this one has 0, so we're going to have 2 decimal places, 1, 2. 35 and 76/100ths, which is pretty close to 40. I'm feeling good about these answers so far. All right, another estimate, 9 times 2 and 63/100ths. So that's going to be like 9, the estimate would be like 9 times 3, which is 27. I'm thinking it's going to be around there, just a little bit less because 2 and 63/100ths is less than 3. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply these. I'm going to put the longer number on top, and I'm going to multiply as normal. 9 times 3 is 27. 7 now carry the 2. 9 times 6, 54. Plus 2 is 56. 9 times 2 is 18. Plus 5 is 23. And we're going to have 2 decimal places, 1, 2. Pretty close to 27. I'm feeling good about that one. Feeling pretty good. All right. Now this question says, what do we do if there are not enough decimal places in the product? All right, so we're going to see an example of that, and then I'm going to have you try some on your own. So 2 times 18 thousandths. We're not going to check by adding, so you can get rid of that. We're not going to check by adding here. We're just going to multiply. So we're going to put the longer number on top, and we're going to multiply by 2. Okay. Now this is going to be a pretty number with a lot less value than 2 because we're multiplying by 18 thousandths, which is pretty close to 0. So our answer is going to be closer to 0 than it is to 2. 8 times 2 is 16. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Now I've said before that you could stop here because 2 times 0 is 0, 2 times 0 is 0. However, sometimes you actually want to multiply by those zeros because this answer is going to have 3 decimal places. And right now, I don't have 3 numbers. Now, you could annex a 0 here to make it 3 decimal places, but I'm just going to keep multiplying. 2 times 0 is 0. 2 times 0 is 0. 1, 2, 3. So it says, what do we do if there's not enough decimal places? Well, you can annex a 0 to hold a place. Okay. All right, last one we're going to do together is going to be, let's do this one together. I'm just thinking about these word problems here. So we're going to do one more together, then I'll have you try some. So it says Justin buys 12 pencils for 56 cents each. He pays with a $10 bill. How much change will he receive? All right, this is a two-step problem. The first thing I want to do is find out how much the pencils cost, because I need to know how much Justin is spending on these pencils. So I'm going to do 12 times 56 cents. I'm going to put the 56 cents on, because it's a longer number. And I'm going to multiply by 12. Again, don't have to line up the decimal point, which is nice. So then we'll multiply. And again, if you want to try this one on your own, you can pause it, try it, and see what you get. 2 times 6 is 12. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11. 2 times 0 is 0, plus 1 is 1. We multiplied by the 2, so I'm going to cross it off. I'm also going to erase the numbers we carried. And I do have to put a 0 in for the placeholder. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 0, you know what? We'll put that 0 in there. Then we're going to add. 2 plus 0 is 2. 1 plus 6 is 7. 1 plus 5 is 6. 2 decimal places in our answer here. So he spent $6.72 on pencils. However, that's not the entire question. It says how much change will he receive? He's paying with a $10 bill. So we're going to have to subtract $6.72 from $10. But in order to subtract that, we do need to put a decimal point and annex 2 zeros to line up the place values. Because now we're subtracting, we do have to line up the decimal place, or the decimal points. 0 minus 2, 0 minus 7, 0 minus 6 are all going to be negative, so we have to regroup here. Okay. All right, we did subtraction yesterday on the remote assignment. 10 minus 2 is 8. 9 minus 7 is 2. Drop the decimal point. 9 minus 6 is 3. So the answer, Justin would get $3.28 back. So he could buy some more pencils if he wanted to, but that's up to him. He's already got 12, so he might be set on pencils for now. All right, so what you're going to do is there are 5 problems I want you to try on your own. This one right here, 4 times 12 thousandths, and then this row of 3, 1, 2, 3, and then the one about the humming bird. Be careful with this one. Be careful with that one. That could be a little tricky. But after you watch the video and try those ones on your own, you can check your answers that I post on this announcement. All right, hope you're having a great day, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.